Okay, good morning, everyone. We're up to Parak Mishna Aleph. So we have, when it comes to the laws of Shemitah, we have something called Svicha. Svicha means aftergrowth. It means things that you didn't plant, but actually grew on their own from seeds that fell from the previous year's harvest. So you never planted them, you never did anything wrong by planting them, just that they grew on their own because they grew from seeds that fell from the previous harvest. And the Mishnah is now discussing that, and the Mishnah begins, HaPegum. These are all different types of plants. The ArtScroll trans Pegum as Rue, R-U-E, by Arbuzin HaShoitim, wild asparagus. There was wild asparagus, and there was also a garden variety, which will have a different halacha that we will see soon. But this is the list. Hayarbuzin HaShoitim, wild asparagus, v'chalagloigis, which they translate this as purslane, P-U-R-S-L-A-N-E. Kusbar shabaharim, coriander of the mountain coriander. Again, it's a wild coriander. There was a garden variety. We're talking about specifically not the garden variety. Karba shavinaharis, they translate karpas as celery, river celery. Again, you had garden celery and river celery. Gargar shal afar. Now listen to this one, okay? Garga they translate as rocket. That's some kind of plant. They call it a rocket. And this is Gargar shal afar, meadow rocket, rockets that grow in the meadow. Because again, there were those that grew in a garden. Pturim and Amaisris. This whole list of what we just said are exempt from separating Trum and Maisa from. This is not Shemitah. During Shemitah, there are no Trumas and Maisris. But all the other 6 years agricultural cycle, there are Trumas and Maisris. You would not be obligated to separate Trumas and Maisris from these plants. And the reason is because these plants, at least some of them when they grow wild specifically, are really have no significance at all. These things that grow on people's property, they couldn't care less about it. And it's basically abandoned. Once it's abandoned, it's considered hefker. Something that is hefker, there is no obligation to separate shumas and maisros from. If you have a grain that was made hefker, somebody really made his grain hefker, and now you go ahead and you acquire it, you don't have to separate shumas and maisros. Well, these things where they grow, they're always considered abandoned, they're always considered hefker, and therefore there's no obligation to separate shumas and maisros from them. And they can be bought from anyone during Shemitah. Now here's the Shemitah halacha, and that is, in general, one may not buy produce from just anyone during Shemitah. Rather, one must be careful to buy from a chaver, which is one known to be scrupulously observant of the details of the law, not from an Am Ha'aretz, who is suspected of not being fully observant of the laws of Shemitah, just as he is suspected in regard to the separation of tithes. Okay, so we have a problem with an Am Ha'aretz during Shemitah as to whether he has been properly keeping the laws of Shemitah. Now, thus, one may not buy produce from an Am Ha'aretz in the Shemitah year because of the concern that he may have restricted public access to the produce of his field in defiance of the biblical command to leave one's field open for all to enter and pick. Produce which has been guarded may not be bought. So that's the problem. The problem is that this Am Ha'aretz is suspect of not fulfilling what the Torah says, that you cannot guard your field from other people to come in and pick from it. Again, there's lots of halachas and a lot of details regarding that specific halacha, but we are concerned that he is going to be doing it in a way that's forbidden to stop people from coming into your field. And if he does that, you're not allowed to buy the produce from that field. So therefore, to go ahead and to buy from an Am Ha'aretz has its issues. But here the Mishnah is saying that this whole list of plants that we just mentioned, you may buy from an Am Ha'aretz, and that is because we don't suspect anyone of restricting public access to the species listed here, which generally grow wild, so that one may buy them from anyone, even someone whose Shemitah observance is not known to be completely reliable. These things typically grow in the wild. These things aren't the kinds of things that people will block access from. And therefore, being that they are, even though, we mentioned some of the things that seem to be a garden variety, but again, they're so insignificant that no one would make a fuss about blocking people from coming to take it. And therefore, you don't have to suspect anyone that anyone has been guarding these things against halacha, and therefore you can go out and buy from anyone. So that's the first part of the Mishnah, a list of specific plants that as sviach, as svichem, as the aftergrowth, we don't suspect that someone's been blocking people from where they grow from getting it, and therefore there's no issue of any kind of prohibition of buying them. But if we're talking about other types of things, other species, there from an Amaretz, you got to be concerned that he blocked access to it against what the Torah says that you're forbidden to do, and then you would not be able to buy it from him, and therefore we don't buy from an Amaretz. Again, buying in situations where one is allowed to buy Shemitah produce. Rabbi Yehuda says, aftergrowth of mustard is also permissible, because those who aren't that observant, again, aren't suspect on that. Now, when we talk about mustard seed, mustard was a cheap commodity and no great profit was to be gained from its sale. It wasn't the hottest commodity on the market. And therefore, according to this opinion of Rabbi Yehuda said, you don't have to worry about buying this mustard from the Amaretz, because again, it's something that grows. It's not necessarily something that grows in the wild, but it was just very cheap. And therefore, you didn't have to suspect that he's going to stop people from coming to get it, because it's not such an important thing. And therefore, according to Yehuda, you would be able to go ahead and buy even these things without any kind of concern. The Artanur brings down, the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. It's like the Tanna Kama. Tanna Kama didn't make mustard as an exception, and mustard apparently was significant enough that Tanna Kama was concerned that people would block access for other people from getting it, and therefore you can't buy it from Amaretz. Reb Shimon says, Kol hasvichen mutarim. All aftergrowth are permissible. Chutz misvichei kruv. Besides for the svichem, the aftergrowth of cabbage, because you don't find anything similar to that in the field. Meaning, according to Reb Shimon, he is being the most lenient and saying, all svichem you can go ahead and buy, even from an Amaretz. You don't got to be concerned that he blocked access to them. The only thing you have to be concerned with is cabbage, because cabbage he's going to block access because there's nowhere else to get it from. You can't get it wild. Anything else, being that you can basically get it wild, we're not concerned that the Amaretz is going to block people from getting it, because he has where to get it from himself. That's the way we worry. People are going to go ahead and take all his stuff. You can go get it from somewhere else. So we're not concerned, according to Reb Shimon, that he's going to block access. The only thing he's going to block access to is cabbage, because he can't find it anywhere else. So that's Reb Shimon's leniency. The Chachamim said, nope, all svichim are going to be forbidden, which according to the Chachamim, it comes out that any of the exceptions that we mentioned here in the Mishnah, they don't hold it. Any sviach, any aftergrowth, we have to be concerned. There's no differentiation between, when we read it here where the Avram says it, Sage Rebbe disagree and assert that the ban was decreed. I'm sorry, reading the wrong part. The Sage Rebbe rule that all Shemitah crops, which are normally cultivated and suspected of being illegally protected, this one is prohibited to buy them from anyone whose Shemitah observance cannot be relied upon. All right, so according to this, it sounds like according to the Chachamim who forbade, they disagreed with Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon said everything is okay besides for cabbage, and the Chachamim said no, everything is not okay. You have to, even if it can be found somewhere else, if it's cultivated, you got to be concerned he's going to block access. It doesn't seem that according to this, that would the Chachamim argue on the first half of the Mishnah? It's not clear. The wording of the Mishnah is kol asvichen asurin, all svichen are asur. But the way they seem to explain here in the Yad Avram sounds like it's going back on Reb Shimon. That Reb Shimon said everything's okay. Even things that are cultivated are okay, besides for kruv, because you can't find it anywhere else in the wild. And the Chachamim say no, anything cultivated you can't. But perhaps according to Chachamim, there are certain things that are cultivated that, again, have those significance and they're abandoned, they're hefker. Okay, so and Allah, again, is sure not like Reb Shimon. that says that this has this most lenient opinion about allowing sfichim to be bought from anyone besides for cabbage aftergrowth. Now, I just want to mention quickly that this is the opinion. The way we learned this Mishnah was according to the Bartanura. And the whole discussion was whether you can go ahead and buy these things from an Amoritz or not. There is another way of learning this Mishnah, which I'm not going to go through right now, just that it's an interesting halacha. That is that there are certain Rishonim who learn that although the Torah does permit aftergrowth, the sages put a ban on basically cultivated aftergrowth, because there was a concern that people were planting their fields and claiming, no, it's aftergrowth. And therefore, they made a general prohibition on all sfichim, that you cannot eat it. The only time they allowed sfichim were by the kinds of things that we don't have to be concerned that people would be planting, because they're typically planted in the wild. So you don't have to be concerned that, oh, this person planted and he's pretending that it's sfichim. So that's just another way. That's just another way of learning this Mishnah and an interesting halacha. Okay, we'll do Sefer HaMitzvot now. Mitzvahs lo yisaseh shloi lahanis ma'aved zara mitikrafta min misham she'ah b'chala nasa b'shvila. Prohibition against benefiting from avodah zara, anything offered to it, anything that's attending it, and anything that has been done for it. Now, before we had a prohibition about eating from the offering of a carbon or drinking wine that was poured for a carbon. Now we're being given a prohibition not to even have any kind of benefit from it. And we also spoke about you can't benefit from the ornament, for the decorations of the avodah zara. But here we're talking about having benefit from, let's say, a sacrifice that was done for it, or other things that attended. I'm not sure what attending it means. What does it mean attending? What does it mean anything done on its behalf? I'm not sure exactly. It could be it includes something like a statue that's done that's made for it. I think it's not directly an ornament on the avodah zara, but some kind of a statue made in its honor. Shenamar, as it says, you shall not bring an abomination to your house. And nothing from that which has been banned may stick to your hand. These are two prohibitions that actually are forbidding us to have any kind of benefit, any kind of general benefit from that. Anybody who does have benefit from anything mentioned above, an offering of a desire, its attendance, anything done on its behalf, has transgressed these two prohibitions. Now, anything that is worshipped but wasn't made by man, like a mountain, or planted to grow fruit, wasn't planted for the purpose of worshiping it, but then people started worshiping it. Or an animal that no act was done in it for the purpose of avodah zara. What I think that means is, let's say people worship an animal, which there are people who do that, but there's no act that was actually done in it for the purpose of avodah zara. It wasn't slaughtered. It wasn't offered. It's just an animal that has been worshipped. And that we say, hey mutarim bahana, you're allowed to have benefit from them, right? You can walk on that mountain. You can lean on that tree. But what's on them would be asr bahana, meaning if there is an ornament on the animal and people are worshiping the animal with the ornament on it, the ornament is going to become prohibited to have benefit from, like we said before. But the animal itself doesn't become prohibited. If you decorate the mountain in some kind of a way, the decorations will become forbidden. If you decorate the tree that was not planted originally from avodah zara but became an avodah zara, you can't have benefit from it. But when we talk about benefit, we're talking benefit directly from the avodah zara itself that was man-made, and anything that again was offered to it. But when we're talking about and anything probably off, I'm assuming anything, right? If you make an offering to the mountain, it probably is going to be forbidden also. But the mountain itself, the animal itself, the tree itself that was planted not for the purpose of avodah zara, they themselves don't become forbidden. Which would mean if you chop down the tree, you could use the wood for firewood. But that's this prohibition. This prohibition that we say you can have any kind of benefit from the avodah zara or from anything from the avodah zara itself or from any of these other things, Again, the other things apply to any of the zara, according to what I understand. We're talking about the zara itself that we say you can't have benefit from it. That only talks about something that was man-made, something that was man-made. This applies in all places at all times, both by men and by women. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.